Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fearless with Mary. I am your host, Mary Tibbetts, and I am so excited that you are here with me today. In today's episode, I am sitting down with Carmen Leibel, CEO of Project 5. We are talking about public speaking and the importance of telling your story. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Hi, Carmen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'm so happy you're here. So I just want to dive right into it. Can you give the audience a little background to what inspired you to start Project 5 and how did the idea come to life?
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for having me. I appreciate it. And I love talking about Project 5 and how this all came about. So this is awesome. I come from a broadcast journalism background. I worked with CTV for, I don't know, almost 17 years as a writer, a reporter, a news anchor. And the idea behind Project 5 came to me actually in the pandemic. And my daughters at the time were in grades 3 and 6, and I started to feel quite concerned about the lack of communication skills that I was noticing with our youth with the online learning, the social isolation. Like in our house, we went from a house of like no devices to us being like, please use these so that you can communicate with people. And I said to my husband, I was like, oh, I'm so concerned about tomorrow's leaders with this lack of communication skills that was being taught. And I said to him, I'll never forget it, we were actually on the drive to beautiful Jasper, Alberta, and so I can see the mountains and our conversation. And I said to him, I feel like I can help with the things that I have taught myself and with the things that I have been taught throughout my awesome broadcast journalism career. I want to have a bigger impact in this world by doing this. And this is really like, this just is where it all sprouted. And my husband does not like to public speak. And he was like, oh, I sure wish I had someone help me when I was young. And so that's kind of where the idea began. And from there, I just couldn't shake it. I couldn't shake the idea. And so this is a long story, but I'll make a long story kind of short. But I started to run an evening class through the city of St. Albert. I was very grateful for the opportunity to give that a shot. And I ran this evening course, a public speaking class with kids ages, I believe it was 10 to 13 at that time. And I was really, really pleasantly surprised by the immediate growth that I noticed in the kids. And they were soaking up the information and they were like, you mean you can help me with this fear? And I was like, oh, I'm definitely on to something. And it's funny, Mary, because this evening class through the city, there was no marketing. I didn't talk about it. It just literally sat on a website. And before we knew it, the class was full with a wait list.
Really?
Yes. And the city of St. Albert called me and they were like, Carmen, what are you doing for marketing? And I was like, oh, nothing. Because I was working at CTV at the time. And so I wasn't about to like publicize or talk about this other thing that I was starting to kind of work on. And that was a key indicator for me that this was something that was missing. I was filling a gap. I felt like I had recognized a problem and found some kind of a solution to help youth use their voices with more confidence. So that was kind of how the ball started to roll a little bit. And from there, I got to thinking, okay, rather than running this in an evening class where students have to be enrolled in it, how about I go to where the kids are? And so I was like, this needs to be in schools. And I've been on all kinds of parent councils with my daughter's schools. And I spoke with a number of teachers and principals, and I spoke with this one. I booked a meeting with this one principal in particular who I knew wouldn't tell me what I wanted to hear. He would be fully honest with me. And I was like, okay, Les, this is what I'm thinking. I've been building this public speaking program, helping kids become more confident communicators. This is why I think it's important. This is what I've been noticing so far in this evening class. Is this something that schools would want? Would kids want this? Does this fit with curriculum? Do teachers want this? Would this even be booked? And to my shock, he was like, Carmen, I want you to pilot this in my school. I was like, what? So literally a month and a half later, I was piloting my ideas, my program that was just starting to get built with his grade 5 classes. And the kids, Mary, they ate it up. We had so much fun. And I learned from them just as much as they were learning from me. as I was making changes to the programs and the activities and the writing, and it's a very interactive, fun, safe environment. And as I was running that with the grade 5 kids, a junior high teacher ran up to me and was like, "Carmen, I need you to come and work with my students." And she was almost like in a panic in the hallway. She's like, "My kids do not want to get up and speak. They don't even want to read in front of the class anymore." And this teacher said to me, she's like, "I don't even know how to teach them public speaking because I don't like public speaking myself." And so then the light bulb went off again, and I was like, "Hey, I have to build a junior high program." So I piloted the program, made my adjustments to junior high, and started working with the junior high kids as well. And then from there, I spoke at teachers' conventions. At the teachers' convention, this one specific one in Edmonton, high school teachers as well were coming up to me and saying, "Carmen, do you have a high school program?" And I was like, "I do. Let me just quickly make that." And Mary, it was nerve-wracking because truthfully, I was doing all of this in the mornings before going into the newsroom, and nobody knew. I wasn't talking about it because I was building this to see if it was going to become a thing. I didn't want to talk about it. I just was like, I wasn't doing, like, there was no conflict of interest, right? I wasn't talking about the newsroom or anything like that when I was in there, but I just didn't want to publicize it because I didn't know. But it did become increasingly apparent to me that yes, this was going to be my path and my thing, and I loved it, and I love it.
That's amazing. So how did you come up with the name Project 5?
So as I was working with the kids, it was clear to me that I needed to have simple steps because I wanted actionable advice. Because at the end of the week, I move into a school for a full week. It's an in-school residency. And by the end of the week, are they going to be perfect public speakers, we say? Are you going to be perfect, flawless communicators, which actually isn't a thing anyways. But are you going to be experts at this? No, you need to keep working on it. So I created 5 simple steps to becoming a more confident communicator. And that's where Project 5 came from. And these 5 simple steps, I teach grade 4 students these 5 simple steps, and I work with CEOs of companies, and I use these 5 simple steps. Obviously tailored to the audience, different with a grade 4 student than someone running a business, but the basics are the basics, and that is how Project 5 was born, because I had these 5 ideas.
That's awesome that you can do it off of 5 steps, obviously tailored. Obviously.
Definitely tailored.
Before we even started recording, you and I were talking about for adults, a lot of adults don't like speaking in public, but your steps also help with just communicating as a whole. So if people need to advocate for themselves with their boss, with their family, with their doctors, with anything like that, they could implement these 5 simple steps as well, correct?
And no matter the room, let's say I'm talking to a group of high school students. I run high school workshops. And the first conversation and discussion that we have, I say, "Why do you think we're working on this?" And they start to raise their hands and say, "Job interviews?" Yes. One student said, "I joined a new sports team and I'm really nervous to speak to my new coaches." Yes. I'm not doing this to help people become news anchors and MCs in front of 1,000 people. Hey, if that's what you want to do, absolutely. But these are everyday situations where you are going to need to use your voice. And that fear, public speaking is a learned skill. Most people, I've met a few unicorns, Mary, who like to public speak, but most people have to work at it, myself included. The first time I was asked to MC an event and there were hundreds of sets of eyes on me, I was terrified. The first time I was live on the air, terrified. But there are all kinds of things that I was taught and things that I taught myself throughout my career to make it easier and to feel more comfortable and confident. And these are the things that I'm passing along to people because it has benefited me in not only my professional life, but my personal life too, meeting new people. You and I were talking earlier, Mary, about the nerves of networking.
Yeah.
You are not alone. You had mentioned, you're like, oh, networking is a bit of a nerve-wracking thing. that is a very common feeling, and it is a skill, and it's something to work on. And I didn't recognize when I launched my business and I started to go to chamber events and meeting new professionals and the networking aspect, I didn't realize how easy it came to me. And I knew the things to do to get ready for it, and the things to do when meeting new people, and the relationship building and the curiosity and the connections, how important all of that was. But I really credit my time in broadcast journalism to being a good communicator and networker at those events. I had to become really good at being a storyteller, obviously, in my journalism career, and a relationship builder, and quick thinking and quick talking and all of that. And those transferable skills absolutely are benefiting me now on this path.
Yeah, especially, yeah, networking. We talked about it. I actually even said you need to give me a networking course really quick before my next networking event. Oh my goodness. Because I'm very lucky. I can speak in public, I can podcast, I can do all that. But if you stick me in a room with 100 people and expect me to go and have a one-on-one discussion with them about what I'm doing, I I flounder. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. What are you doing? Because then it's just always, well, no, but what are you doing? So then you don't have to answer it, right?
And
Yeah.
I think there's the fear of being impactful in 30 seconds. I only have 30 seconds to tell you what I'm going to do, or what I do, and empower you, and have you be interested in me. So we put like too much pressure on ourselves sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it too, putting too much pressure on ourselves, because that's really common. That's a big reason why a lot of people are afraid of public speaking as well.
Yeah. I find it fascinating actually, because I'm opposite, I think, to most people. So yeah, I think it's very important. So I just want to touch on, because you know my situation. Everybody listening knows my situation, obviously. Um, and just talk about people who have to deal with very, very, not that, so every situation is important. It depends on the situation that you're in. So we were talking about job interviews, talking to your boss, talking to a sports team, all of that, or the coach. Um, so for me, I would love for all of my listeners to be able to advocate for themselves and speak with their healthcare professionals, that their team that are supposed to be taking care of them and helping them, whether it be asking them about nutrition, about exercise, or about medication, whatever it is that they need to talk to them about, because I know how scary that can be. I get lucky because I have a bit of a big mouth and I have no problem being like, I'm not putting that in my body, or I will put that in my body. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So could you maybe give a tip or a trick, or what maybe they could do to help themselves when it comes to advocating for themselves? Before we move forward, make sure you guys go below, subscribe to my channel, give me a like, and share with anybody that you think would benefit from this.
Well, if it's a specific scenario, and obviously it would be a scenario where there's a specific message that you'd like to get across, there is no harm, and in fact, I would highly suggest practicing. So writing out your main points, just even in point form, and before you go to that important meeting, or that important interview, or that important appointment, as you say, before going there, jotting out your point form notes of what are the main messages I want to get across here. Because without kind of collecting your thoughts beforehand, sometimes in the heat of the moment, the nerves take over, and we ramble and we say things that we don't want to say, or we get off topic, or we don't say the things that were the most important parts. Yeah. So if we put our most important points down and actually, Mary, say them out loud. So for example, I was preparing for my very, very first interview when I was a new entrepreneur. And I was nervous because I'm used to asking the questions, not answering them. But I kind of knew what people were going to ask me. And so I practiced out loud. I wrote out the main things, the points that I wanted to say about why I left news and why I wanted to start this business. And I actually practiced my responses over and over again. Because the first time I said it out loud, I definitely rambled. And then the second time I said it out loud, I definitely missed one of the main points. And so the more you practice that out loud, those main points, the stronger your delivery will be come game time. And the other thing is what you say, of course, matters, but how you say it often matters more. So just having that strong body language, our body language, there's this really great quote from a Dr. Amy Cuddy. Mary, I would totally recommend you watching her podcast or her TED Talk. She gives a great talk called Your Body Language May Shape Who You Are. But she says 50% of a first impression is around your body language. And it is the truth. I mean, without you saying any words and you're closed, right? You're slouched, you walk in with bad posture, you're telling your audience a story about you. But walking in with confidence, good, strong posture, open body language really tells a story and sets the stage. So I would say practice your messaging out loud, even if you have someone in your household who you could practice to. Kind of that role playing, especially if it's really important and there are those main messages that you cannot forget. Practice it with somebody and think about that body language and that eye contact, connecting with that person. Those are some tips that I would say right away off the bat.
That's awesome. Those are great, honestly. Honestly, because I'm in the car and I'm thinking, okay, you need to make sure that you say this but you can't do it 30 seconds before you walk into the building. You actually need to mentally prepare yourself, like for the networking events. You need to mentally prepare yourself. Okay, there's going to be 100 people there. So maybe instead of doing it when you're getting out of the car, you do it the day before and the day before that, just to kind of work up to it and get to that point.
Yes. And it's funny you say that because the first time, so again, I'm kind of giving you advice from my new entrepreneurial journey because it was kind of, I don't want to say I was terrified, but I was definitely nervous. And so going to my first networking event as an entrepreneur, not showing up as a local journalist, I practiced kind of my little pitch about what it is that I'm doing a couple days prior. And then I rehearsed it on the drive to the networking event because I was like refreshing my mind of what it is I wanted to say and how I wanted to be impactful in my 30 seconds, introducing myself to people. So you had the right idea of saying it right before, but should have been more of like your refresher, not your first time.
Yeah. Well, because I was explaining to you, I went in. I'm an MS advocate. I literally actually am. That is what I do.
Mm,
And I walked in and people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "I have a floral studio." Listen, that is not even what I wanted to talk about. I literally was giving them my whole entire backstory about how I got to the point that they don't care. I promise they don't care. They were like, "Okay, crazy lady." You could see them. They were like, "Who is this?" So I
mm,
highly recommend everybody listening to what Carmen is saying right now and
yeah.
practice. So you're
Yeah.
not walking in there being all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't
Yeah.
want to show up and be flustered and too wordy and off topic and off focus.
Yeah.
Prepare and practice.
And be confident in yourself of what you're saying though. Like I honestly think I can rehearse all I want, but I actually have to be confident in what I'm saying and
Hmm.
actually believe in myself for what I'm saying. So what would be a tip for somebody to be able to do that? To
Hmm.
actually have the confidence to believe what they're trying to sell or trying to get across or trying to
Hmm.
figure out.
I'll never forget. I was in my 20s and I was asked to deliver the eulogy at my grandma's funeral. And I prepared and I practiced. And then right before it, I was so nervous. And I was kind of giving myself like negative self talk and saying to myself, like, oh, what if I make a mistake? What if I do a bad job? My grandma was kind of a stickler for grammar and punctuation. So I didn't want to like mess up my words in my eulogy. And so I started to go down the road of the negative self-talk, which does not set yourself up for success. And for some reason, I flipped the thinking. And right before I went up there, and there was this big audience of all of these people who meant a lot to me and family members and friends, and I just really wanted to do a good job. And so for some reason, something changed, and right before I went up there, I gave myself a minute to get into the right headspace. And I closed my eyes and I was like, okay, I have prepared this. I have practiced this. I'm going to do a good job. And if I make a little mistake, it's all good. And I kind of took that time to get into the right frame of mind. I took a breath and I went up there and I delivered a wonderful, full eulogy. And I wasn't nervous. All of a sudden, for some reason, the nerves weren't there. And after I left the stage, the little mini stage in the church, I was like, whoa, taking that time to get myself in that right frame of mind made all the difference. And so I started to get into the habit of doing that. And I teach students to do this now when I work in elementary, junior high, high schools, post-secondary, even when I work with corporate clients. Getting into that right frame of mind right beforehand is a crucial step. And you're not doing yourself any favors if you're working yourself up into this bundle of nerves, sitting there being like, what if I make a mistake? What if I still? Then you're going into it more nervous, right? Yeah. So actually taking the time, take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. There's power in that. Scientists have studied how that physiologically calms your nerves. I know it sounds like a really simple step because it is, and it's awesome that it's so simple, and it's hugely impactful just taking that breath and then giving yourself a pep talk and being like, okay, I've got this. Flipping the thinking. It is a game changer.
Well, because if you do it enough, so let's say you're going and meeting all of these people and doing the networking and stuff. If you do it enough, you get really good at it. The first couple of times are going to be difficult, but if you keep practicing, everything gets easier with practice, or better with practice. I shouldn't say easier, because it also depends on the networking event, right? Like it could go from one to the other, but it gets easier as it goes on. So if you do the breath and you practice that, it's great, because then that'll always be a step that you take before you walk in to a building, into a room.
In any situation for me, I do it. Before a networking event, before I walk into a new school to deliver my program, before I deliver a talk at teachers convention, or I'm running a session, a corporate session for a group of executives, I get nervous too. We are humans. That's our natural feeling. And the nerves too aren't always a bad thing. It means it's important to you. It means you want to do a good job. If anything, use those nerves for energy and recognize like, okay, I'm going to use this. I've got this. This is important to me. I want to crush this. Yeah. So for any of those situations, I take a minute or two before I go in, and I get myself in that right frame of mind, and I take that deep breath. I say to the kids too, I'm like, do you think for 7 years as a news anchor, I delivered 7 years of flawless newscasts? Well, I did. No, of course I didn't. Yeah. Like I stumbled on words, I forgot details. I loved sharing the story. One time, Rachel Notley was the premier at the time, and live on the air in front of who knows how many people, tens of thousands, I called her Nachel Rotley.
I remember that.
You do not.
I do so. Yes, I do remember that. I actually do. That's hilarious.
I
know all about.
And so I love it that you remember that.
You recovered really well from that, though.
Because this is what I said to the kids. It makes you human. It makes you relatable. It's fine. I remember pausing and kind of smiling and being like, Rachel Notley. And then you move along. And did anyone call the newsroom and be like, that was terrible? No. It just, people at home probably giggled and they're like, oh, she stumbles on her words too. Yeah. Awesome. Right? And so, yeah, it's just, we put too much pressure on ourselves to be these flawless communicators, networkers, public speakers, and we need to dial it down a bit and be like, we're human. Humans make mistakes, and it's all good.
Yeah. So where do you see Project 5 going in the next 5 years? Do you have plans for it?
Well, I've hired a contract worker, so I'm already expanding, which is really cool. I have a teacher who's joined my team who's running programs, and she's just a delight and bringing so much to the table in terms of her knowledge and her experience working as an educator. So that's been awesome. I do envision expanding to other cities. I drive back and forth to Calgary, and I would love to have a Project 5 instructor in Calgary running the programs. I could see that being a part of my focus. Also, I do have a corporate arm of my business, and I'm seeing that slowly, not really slowly, but that is taking off in a new direction. So I'm kind of building the corporate program more, helping people with things like networking and the public speaking element with their presentations and their speeches. And I hear from people saying, I want to talk and give a speech about my experiences, but I don't even know where to begin. And my past as a journalist, being able to take all this information and create an impactful, short presentation is what I spent my career doing. And so I love meeting with people who are like, I have all of this to say, but I can't narrow down my focus. And I just have a natural ability to be able to do that because of my career. So that's been a really cool thing to add on to what it is that I offer. And Mary, I'm really excited. I'm going to be creating a video series because I cannot travel to all the places. And so I'm going to be building online modules for schools, especially kind of more remote communities where maybe they don't have the opportunity to have somebody come out and run an in-school residency. So an interactive, I've hired a company and we're going to be working together in June to create this interactive online series because I want to be able to help more and more kids, and obviously I can't travel everywhere, so that's a big goal for me.
So would you be putting together an interactive one that people could maybe like that adults, like say me, could purchase online where they could go through and do an interactive one because you can't be everywhere at once. You can hire people, but I've been the person where I've had staff and I know that a lot of the times the people want to deal with you. Not that
Yeah.
they don't love the people that work for you, but they want to deal with you. So in the future, would you be putting together like an online interactive thing for people to purchase?
That is absolutely on the list. So I'm starting to build kind of more webinar series, just like how you and I are having this conversation. I would love to help people virtually, no matter where they are, with any aspect of their public speaking concerns and worries, whether it's networking, getting ready for a big presentation, crafting a speech. So I'm going to start with kind of the online webinar, like live. And then once I do more of those and I kind of gain that knowledge from those that I work with, then I'm going to be, yes, exactly, creating the modules, the
Okay,
interactive
I'm
ones.
in it because I have all of this information. So much, you have so much information. I have so much information, but I need to get it into like
Yeah,
a little box to be able to share with people.
yeah.
So
And
that,
I've been meeting with some professionals recently, and this is where the idea kind of sparked. And I will sit with them just like you and and they'll tell me kind of all the things that they want to say. And I have this, and I like spidey sense, and I'm like, oop, I'm like, that's your lead. That's what you have to start with. I have it in me, and it's because of my journalism where so I was a health reporter for many years, and I had a health segment, and I would say that I loved that even more than news anchoring
what was the
because
name of it?
your health.
Your health. That's
Yeah, and I covered, I met the most inspirational people, and I talked to researchers and doctors and families, and my favorite memories and stories are from that time. But I would spend a day interviewing researchers and doctors and people throughout the day on a topic, and then I'd get back to the newsroom, and you only have so much time to write your story. So you become very good at all of highlighting, this is my lead, this is my main focus, These are the interviews. This is how it's going to end in a minute 30 or 2 minutes. And right. And so, but we do that all in one day. So I love hearing from, yeah, all in one day. So I love hearing from people like yourself. I would say, tell me your story and what it is that you want to get across. And my spidey senses are like, this is your focus and this is how you're going to open up your speech. It's like naturally in me because of my history.
It's amazing because I think I've written, rewritten, written again, and then rewrote that one probably about 1,000 times at this point. And I'm looking at it going, no, I'm like, that's not it.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah,
Okay. We need to talk because
yes, we do.
I would love to help you with that.
That would be amazing. My goodness. Because I say I word vomit and that's fine because it just keeps coming. And like,
But you
all the
have
time.
to be concise in your messaging when you have 30 minutes to deliver your speech, right?
Yeah.
You have to, you want to be purposeful in the points that you pick.
Yeah, 100%. Especially because there's so much information to give. You have to make sure you're giving the right information, though. Nobody
Exactly.
cares about my dog's name and that we went for a walk yesterday.
I mean, that's lovely, but don't include that in your speech.
No.
And you also, it has to be delivered and written and um, uh, yeah, delivered in a way that you don't lose your audience,
Yeah.
right? So it has to have a proper flow, because if it doesn't have a proper flow, you start to lose your audience because they're like, why does that detail make sense? And then once they're starting to question the detail that doesn't quite make sense, you've lost them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I just putting it out there, another course you could put together is how to captivate your audience or how to MC and then how to actually even get those engagements, right? Because there's we can talk about it after. It's okay.
I'm just going to jot notes of all my homework now.
Right? It's like, okay, I will write all of this down. I know. So where can everybody find you?
Okay, so I have a website, project5.ca. You can also find me on Instagram, project5.ca. And then I really do love chatting with people on LinkedIn, and you can find me under Carmen Leibel, Leibel.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really excited that I got to meet you, even if it's not.
The honor was mine, and I get so, I'm always appreciative of and honored when people want to hear my story. So,
It's a
Mary,
great story,
thank
though, and
you.
it needs to be shared. So I'm very happy you came on.
Thank you so much. Okay,
My
bye
pleasure.
everybody.